Hey everybody, welcome back to Thistle Hill Farmstead. Today we're going to continue on our barn build, and the activity for today will be putting up the header for our sliding barn doors. So let's get a closer look and see what we need to do. So what we're going to have to do today is put a header up above the door here where I have this metal. Now, this is a little bit of a mess up on my part, and this is my first barn build, so, I think I've done pretty good so far with what's going on. But what I should have done before I put my metal up is put an additional header board across the top here so that it would sit proud of the steel, and I could put my track on it and then hang the door. I did put a header inside, a header board all the way across on the inside with the anticipation of hanging the door, but I didn't realize I needed to put an additional one on the outside. So let's take a look and see what I'm talking about. So let's go inside the barn here. And, well, it's going to be hard to see. But up there, I did put a header. That's a 2x10 that goes all the way over from one side of the barn behind this 6x6 here and all the way to the other side. So there is a headboard back there for me to attach this additional header board to. So that should make it easy. Let me see if I can get back. That should make it easier to get that additional header board on. But what I'm going to have to do is cut the steel to mount that board, which is going to be a little bit of an aggravation, but let's take a look at that. Now I'm up here on the scaffolding, and what I need to do is I'm going to have to cut the steel here and mount I have a 2x6 that I need to mount, actually a 2x8 that I need to mount here that comes across. So I need to cut all this steel, take this J channel off here, and I'll have to cut all the way across to mount that board to mount my track on. So the first thing I need to do is make some measurements and mark the line to cut the steel. And then I have a little cut-off wheel thing that I'm going to go across here. Hopefully it'll do okay for cutting this. We're going to see how it goes. So this is my Franken scaffold that I built. It's nice and sturdy. It's not going anywhere. It's a little bit of a mess because I built this first section here and then kind of stood it up and realized I didn't need it to be this wide. So on the following sections, I made it much thinner. And like I said, these are all boards that I couldn't use inside because they're either warped or bent or were not straight in some fashion. So they were laying out for scrap anyway. I used those to build the scaffolding, but it's nice and sturdy, and it should work for what I need to do. First thing I want to do is make some marks on where I need to cut. And I'm going to put a 2x8 here. I just measured that 2x8 is actually 7 1/4. So I'll probably just go 7 1/2 there. That'll give me some play. So that's my cut line. I just need to mark that level across, and then I can start 7 1/2, looks like about right there. And I can start my cutting. Now that I have this metal cut out, I am going to try to put this first header board up here. This is really probably a two-man job, but as usual, I'm working by myself. So I'm gonna struggle with this thing and get it up here. My plan is to kind of get it lined up on the bottom and then take the nail gun and just shoot a nail in it to hold it while I put the nails in the other parts of the board. All right, let's see if I can hold this up without falling forward and falling right off the scaffold here. I'm trying to balance it, get my hand kind of in the middle of balance, and it's pretty close to where I cut. If you remember when I measured, I left about a 1/4 inch space between that metal and the bottom of the board. So I have it there. Just try to make sure I've got it lined up or flush with the rough opening, and there you go. I just pounded a nail in there that's holding it, and let's take a look at it and see how it did. I'm going to take my level and put on it here and just see if it's level and if it's flush on the bottom. And I believe what I'm feeling here is that it's not exactly flush on the bottom. And you can see this end closest to us is down a little bit. And this lumber is not exactly straight, so I'm going to have to probably push this end up. You can see if I push that up flush, then the other end comes down. And that's kind of what I'm doing here, is just sighting down the board, looking down the board and just seeing what it's doing. And it's got a dip in the far end there, a bend. Kind of mulling this over here to decide what I want to do, whether I want to push this end up and tack it with a nail and then try to push that other end flush, or do the opposite, push the other end up and then tack this. Both of these ends are hanging down a little bit as opposed to the center. So I think both ends are going to have to come up. So what I've decided to do here, obviously, is push that this end up flush with the rough opening, and then I'm going to see if I can get this other end pushed up. I attempt to push it just with my hand at first, but I'm not having much success on bending that board. So I think what I'll do is create me a T-post and see if I can push it up with that. And here's my T-post. It's just a piece of lumber with a board nailed to the bottom of it or to the top of it to make what looks like a T. And what I'm going to do is I've cut it longer so that I can push it up. And you see I have the sledgehammer here. I'm just going to tap it in to push that board up until it gets flushed with the rough opening, and then I can come up and nail it. Now I'm going to just shoot a couple of nails in here. There we go. That's flush underneath there. Now it's time just to start pounding some nails in here. And this is probably overkill for what I'm doing here, but I want to just get this main board in here because this is where the doors will hang when they're closed. There'll be a little bit of weight on this board. So I wanted to put quite a few nails in it so it will stay in place. And now I'm going back and kind of pounding those nails in. Some of them don't drive in all the way. I don't know if my air pressure is not up high enough on my compressor, or if it's for whatever reason it's not driving the nails in. So I have to come back with a hammer and pound them in. Now I'm just going to tap that T-post out from under there and move it out of the way. Don't know if you noticed, but I did not really put a lot of nails in this side right here. I didn't put any at the end because I wanted to be able to push it up a little bit too. So I'm just trying to get this T-post in position to push it up. Once I get this in position, then I'm going to bump it again on the bottom with the sledgehammer and just push it up. Now that it's nice and flush, I'm going to shoot some nails in here to hold it in place. There we go. Now that I have that first board in place, I used it as a guide to pull these string lines for the upper and lower position for the following build. And things were going along well until right here. And you see my confusion. And then I remembered that I had ran some wires behind there, and I just hit some of those wires. Did you see that spark come out of there? You know what that means? I ran my wires down and across the top of this header board, so I just cut into one of my wires. Well, that'll be a little electrical fix to do. But let's just continue with my cutting, and we'll get this second piece cut out and see if we can get that header board up there. And I found if I cut the high ribs first, then I could just tuck my string into that cut that I made, and then use my marker to mark the lower part of the steel, and that made it a lot easier to cut. I tried first by leaving the string there, and I wound up just cutting the string in half, which okay, I'm doing the same thing on this side. I'm just cutting those high points on the steel first, pushing that string down into the line or the little cuts that I already made, and then I am cutting the low part of the steel. Now that I have the steel cut, I'm going to take this piece of J-channel and slide it down over that cut metal so that it'll make a nice transition between that metal and the header board. And I will also be wrapping that header board in some steel. It's a little fiddly to get this thing down on there, but eventually I do get it to slide down on there. There we go. And the same thing on this side, little piece of J-channel, cut the length, and it should slide down over the top of that. And then I just need to tuck all the high ribs in to get it nice and flat. Here it's getting caught on a piece of metal that I had cut behind there on the trim piece, but I finally got it in. Now it's time to see if I can get my other board up here. And I think I might have cut my steel just a little short. I'm going to tap this in, but later on I do discover that when I do bump this in, that it buckled my steel just a little bit on the far side. So I went back and trimmed that a little bit more so that there would be some clearance. All right, guys, it's starting to get dark on me now, but I've made some pretty good progress considering I have no idea what I'm doing. Having to cut that metal and get the boards up there. And then, like I said, I wound up cutting through one of my electrical wires that I had run kind of behind the metal. So I had to stop and repair that, but you can see the lights are on. Everything's good. Now, I've got that board up. It was a little crooked, so I had to take the come along, connect one end, pull the other end down, kind of straighten it up. But everything's nice and level. The board is. Now, obviously, I'll level up the track when I put it up there too. And then I just need to get this board up and then put the metal around it. And then I'll be ready to put the track on. So we'll do that tomorrow. But for you, it'll be just like, and boom, just like that. It's the next day. Ooh, it's a little chilly today. It's a little overcast and foggy, but let's keep going. So here I'm just tucking a little pieces of J-channel in backwards here to cover this end piece. And then I'm going to have this piece that I have in my hand is going to go over the end of the header board that I'm going to put in. Now that slid in there pretty well. And the rest of these I put in with screws. I didn't nail them with the nail gun because these actually sit on top of that J-channel nicely, and I can, just set them up there and not have to worry about holding it. Here you go. You see me driving a couple of screws in here. Hold it up. Here I'm fitting this little piece of metal around the end to cover the end. There you go. I put a screw through it. It's going to hold it on there. There. Here is the piece of steel that covers it. Now I'm sliding it on from the end because it is like a U shape on the bottom, which wraps around the bottom of that board. And I did, before I put these boards up, trim the inside or the back side of that board a little bit so that this metal would slide on the back side of it. Daddy like. Right there now. All right, let's see if I can get this. Let's see if I can get this next piece in. Okay. Let's see. So here you can probably see when I hold this up, you can see it's shaped like a U on the bottom, and then it's just kind of bent over on the top. So if I can get this U shape up around the bottom of it here in the middle, then I can just slide it over the top of that piece of J channel. There you go. I don't know if you can see the end of that well enough or not, but the bottom of it wraps all the way around the bottom of that board. Okay, there we go. And I just tuck the top part of that up in there. I am going to have a little hood that slides over this, so that will keep the water from getting down in there. Hold it. Well, I must have had a brain fart when I was saying this is 10 feet wide, because it's not. It's 14 feet wide. So what I can do is I can slide. I guess I can slide this under the other one, maybe over the top, underneath. I don't know which is going to be better. Guess I will just put it on and see what happens. So first of all, I need to take this screw out because it's going to be in my way, and move it over. Oh, let's see. Now that's something. Screw that right through my glove. There we go. Alright, let's move it over to here just to hold it temporarily. Alright, let's see if I can get this piece. Now I decided to cut this piece shorter so that it could basically overlap this space in the middle that I need. I think what I did was cut it 3 inches longer on each side than that opening was. And I'm not sure why, you'll see in a minute, I struggle to slide this thing underneath the 2 existing pieces. I don't know why in hindsight I didn't just wrap it around over the top of those. Either way, there's a seam there, so I'm not sure what I was thinking. I just made it hard on myself, but it worked out in the long run. Here you can see how that metal wraps around the bottom of that board. So there's like a U shape on the bottom, and then the top is just an L shape. Got a scrap piece of wood. Maybe I'll stick that in the inside. Make it easier to cut. Okay, let's try it. Okay. Now let's see if we can get it in there. In there. Let's see. Here again, I don't know what I was thinking when I decided I wanted to slide this underneath these two existing pieces of metal. I think I made it way harder on myself than it needed to be, but I was able to get it to slide under this one and then come back and slide under the other one. But in hindsight, like I said, I could probably just wrapped it around at the top and been done. This is for you. Oh, whoa, hey, yeah, there we go. There we go, it slid. Just had to put the old bare hand on it. All right, I think that's good. Now I just need to tack it into place, and I'm ready for my rail. All right, so there is the header board installed. Now, of course, I'm going to fasten some fasteners around the bottom. Make sure everything's on good. And I left this gap on the top. There's going to be a rail that slides in, a cover or a hood, I should say, that slides in the top of this thing, over the top. But I want to put my rail on first, and then I'll slide that hood on, and then we'll be good to go. Be ready to hang the doors. So I've put some tape in the center here so I can know where the center of the door is. And what I've done is, here's the instructions, and it basically says place the door, the rail, the first rail, in the center of the rough opening. And it says here, place it 5 inches above the top of the door. So in the top of the door should be 1 inch, there you go, 1 inch above the rough opening. So what I'm going to do here is just mark 1 inch above the rough opening, and that should be where my top of my door sits. And then I'm going to mark 5 inches above that line for the top of the rail or track. So let me just mark 6 inches. That's 1 inch plus 5. There we go. So that is where the top of my rail should reside. Now I've done the same thing here. Is I have put a piece of tape on the center of the rail so I can line it all up, and I'm putting that top of that rail at that mark that I marked, and it looks like it works out so that, sorry about blocking the camera here, but it looks like it works out just where the top of the mounting holes are at the top of the header board. So that's gonna make life easier for me. I can just line the top of that bracket up there to the top of the header board and put a screw in it. And that's what I'm going to try to do now. I'm marking these with a Sharpie, and then I'm going to go ahead and pre-drill some holes so that I'll make it easier to get the screws in. So I've marked those holes with my Sharpie, or where the holes would be, and I'm going to go ahead and drill those holes through the steel so that when I put the screws in, and here are the screws. Now it came with these short screws here that I'm pointing at. I I bought these long, like 2.5-inch screws. I'm going to put at least one of those in each. And also I painted them. The screws that came with it were silver, and the screws I bought were silver, so I wanted them to be black. So I went ahead and painted those. So I have drilled my holes. Now I'm going to take one of the screws I have and just drive it in a bit so that it's ready to go when I hold my rail up. Let me pull my tape down now. And I just did that center screw. Once I get this thing up, then I can drill the rest of the holes and put the other screws in. So here I am holding it up, trying to get my screw started while I balance it in one hand, and then take my driver and drive it home. And this is just a little bit low, but I'm going to raise that up. Now I'm just going to peel some of this tape off. I don't know how I got that piece stuck behind there. But now that I have everything lined up the way I want, I'll just peel this tape off of here. So I've got that first rail in place, and I have a punch here because when I first started trying to drill these holes, my bit was walking all over the place. So I went and got my punch. So I'm going to punch this steel to make a little dent in it, and then hopefully that will make my drilling go a lot easier. All right, and here I am just punching those, drilling them, and then putting the screws in and checking the level as I go. And I'm going to check the level here, and I'll pull you off the tripod for a second. And there you go. Pretty close. Just a little off, not center bubble, but it's going to be good enough. Now I'm going to add this splice clip here, and that connects from, here they are, two in the bag. That connects one track to the next. These were a bit difficult to get in. I wound up having to get the hammer and kind of knock it in there. A little tappy tap tap there, but it went in nicely. Now it's time to put this next rail up and fasten them together. So let me see if we can do a split screen here. And you see me trying to wiggle that in again. Would have been easier with two people, somebody to get that in lined up for me while I pushed it in, but I was able to get it. And now what I'm going to do is mark my holes. I'm just making sure it's shoved in there tightly. I'm going to mark my holes here and punch them. And then I'll come back and drill. There I go. And put the screws in. And as always, checking my level to make sure everything's nice and level as we go. And you probably saw me check the level against the bottom of the track because the top of the track has these little pads welded onto it, and I wasn't sure if that might throw my level off. And now let's work on this next track. We're going to do the same thing here, rinse and repeat. Alrighty, there we go. I got the track up now, and I'm ready to start putting this little hood piece on. And basically, I'm gonna just need to slide this behind the steel and see how that goes in. Now, what I did wind up doing, or what happened, was it did catch on a couple of those pieces of steel, and I had to just fiddle around with it, go and pull out the steel a little bit, and I wound up loosening all of those screws you see there, just to let the metal flop out a little bit more so that it would slide in there easier. Here I'm trying to push it, but I did discover that pulling it worked a lot better. So you see I can go down here and I can see that it's hung under another piece of metal there. And that's why I decided to take those screws out, so that the bottom of those, the existing metal, could kind of flop loose and I could see what was holding it and what was hung. You see here, I'm just trying to pull on it a little bit and get it going. There we go. Once it's going, it tends to want to go, but then it'll catch on another piece. So it's just, like I said, a little bit fiddly, but I've eventually got it in there. And there we go. It's in. Yay. Now I just need to slide that all the way down to the end. And I have 3 pieces of 12-foot steel to make this little awning piece here. So I'm going to do kind of like I did the rails. I'm going to slide one down each end and then just kind of patch the center part together. Now you may notice that those screws up top are loose. I have loosened those up so that the metal will go in there a little easier, I hope. Let's see how this works. So I'm gonna slide it in here. I think I have enough room to slide this all the way down and get it behind the metal, and then pull it back the other way. That's the plan, at least. This one seems to be going in a little bit better, and then it stopped. So it gets hung here just a bit. I've got to work with it to get it loose. But then it finally starts moving again. Now I'm trying to figure out what it's hung on here. And it looked like one of the pieces of metal was sticking up a little bit, so I'm tapping on it with a screwdriver to try to push that down just a bit so that it'll slide. And that worked nicely, so now it's moving again. If I can get it to go, come on, baby. Now I've reached the end, the other end of my metal, so I have to get it up over that to pull it down a little bit, and I still have a little ways to go to get it to fall behind. And I realized these little poles sticking up here in the way of the camera. I don't know why I didn't cut those off. In that way it would have made the filming look a little better, but I didn't, and they're here, so that's what it is. And here's me looking confused, trying to figure out why it won't slide. It's getting late in the day and I'm getting tired. There we go. I finally get it to slide and go underneath the metal, and it's under there now. I think I have to go just a little bit further. There you go. I saw that piece of tin. Now I'm going to pull it back and pull it all the way to this end closest to the camera. If I can get it around this metal. It's hung on the edge of this piece of metal here, and I'm trying to figure out why or how it's hung, but it's being a pain in the butt. Okay, I think I lost the footage of me actually getting it around that piece and then sliding it all the way down. But now you see there's a piece on the right side closest to the camera, and there's a piece on the left side all the way down to each end. Now I just need to cut a piece to go in the middle here. And maybe you could see what I've done is this metal down toward the bottom there was bent over and crimped, and I opened that little crimp up so that when I slide this in and get it up over the other metal, it'll kind of slide up over it, and then I can crimp it back together. So I just need to slide this down far enough to get it underneath the metal. And it looks like it's going. There we go. Now it's underneath. Now I need to pull it back. And again, I marked about 3 inches on each side so that it'll overlap. And once again, having a little bit of trouble getting it to slide behind this metal, but now it's moving, and you see it just got caught again on a piece. There we go. Oop, what was that? The screw flew out of there or something. And Now I just need to get it to overlap, and then I'll crimp that little seam back together. There we go. Once I got it to slide down, I was able to bend the metal or flex it like this. There you go. Now those seams are together, and I'll just crimp them back together to hold it tightly. Now I'm going to do the same thing on this other end. Now I'm just going to go down through here and put some screws down toward the bottom. And you may ask yourself why I'm pulling the screws out from the top that I had loosened and using them down here on the bottom. And that's because once you loosen these screws up, it kind of knocks the finish off of them, the paint. And what I'm going to do is put new screws up top where they're visible to anybody walking in front of the barn. But these screws that I'm putting right over this little overhang here, you can't really see from the ground, so I'm not that concerned that the paint is kind of chipped up on them. Okay, now I've got my new bag of screws, or bag of new screws, and I'm going to put the new screws back up top where I had previously taken those out, and that way they'll look nice and fresh. Well, that's going to be it for this video. It's gotten long enough, but we have our rail up for our sliding doors. We've got the little black awning thing over it too. Looks really good. I'm happy with it. A lot of work, a lot of fiddly work, but we got it done. But if you've hung in there through the whole video, hey, I really do appreciate it. And if you like the video, give it a thumbs up. It really helps the channel out a lot. And if you haven't subscribed already, hit that subscribe button. It really helps me out, helps the channel grow. And while you're down there, hit that little bell notification button so that anytime I post a new video, you'll get notified. Because the next video is going to be hanging the doors, which are laying here on the ground and have been forever. My wife is about to kill me, and it's killing the grass. But I want to get those hung up. So yeah, be sure you subscribe to the channel and ring that bell notification so that you'll catch that next video. Thanks again for joining us here at Thistle Hill Farmstead. We'll see you next time.